everybody. Welcome to week 4 of the Retro Wrestling Review Podcast. I'm your host, Gene Jackson, and we are here once again to talk about USWA in 1993. And you know, we can't do that without our co-hosts. There they are. They came in, they went away. There they are. Josh Briley, Richard Mulligan of P3 Radio. Guys, how are you doing?
Doing great, man. We are ready to talk about some USWA wrestling from 1993. And, you know, I was excited about this one just because I saw some of the names and immediately made me ready to go. So I'm excited to be here, man. It's like I was just telling Josh right off the air. It's like, this is a fun one to do. We always come on. It's low stress on us. We just come on and talk. You're the man behind the magic, Gene. And we're just riding along with you. And we appreciate you having us.
Well, I appreciate you guys doing it. And yeah, man, I'm glad I'm not the only one having fun with this. You know, going back and watching these shows and then coming on here and talking about it and taking a look at these clips. And when I saw that this week in particular was going to feature a tag team title tournament, and like you said, some of the names involved, you know, before we get rolling along too good, let's do what they did on the TV show. As the TV show started, Dave and Corey just got right into it. They brought Eddie Marlin out, and he kind of lays it out to us on where we're headed. So let's take a look at a little clip here of what we got coming for today's episode.
The Moondogs was hurt. Looks like the concussion is going to keep him out for some time. He can't defend. Now, here our USWA committee has ranked the top 8 teams. Number 1 seed in the tournament, the Harris brothers, the Bruise Brothers, Ron and Don Harris, Lawler and Jarrett, Mean Mike Miller, Brian Christopher, Danny Davis, and Moondog Spot, Reggie B. Fine and Jeff Gaylord, Eddie and Doug Gilbert, the Masters of Terror, and Scott Campione and Tony Denucci, number 8. So what we're going to do, let's see, we've got some brackets over here. Right, okay. All right, so it'll be team number 1, Harris Brothers against Campione and Denucci. That'll be the opener, and we'll go right through this first round, and we will end up with the second round, which will be the quarterfinal round. And then, of course, the finals will come up later, and new USWA Tag Champions will be crowned later in the week.
All right, guys, what do you think of that middle school art project we got going on there to show us the brackets?
I think one of the Jerrys told somebody, maybe Guy Coffee, to stop by Walgreens on the way. Get some of that poster board.
They got a deal on poster board going on, Jerry. Got to get in there.
They just made it happen.
Got to get in that Walgreens, Jerry.
I love that. Yeah, there were several different versions of it too. Like they didn't have like removable things. Like there was like a different poster as
written in Sharpie,
and they're just figuring it out on the fly.
Then afterwards, like, you know, we could have, there's a lot easier ways we could have done that, but oh well.
That's why when the changes happened, they were like, we've already written in Sharpie, Jerry. We can't go back now. It's the Gilberts.
Oh, changing the finishes today, pal. So to recap that quickly, these list of names, they are in order. This is how they are seeded today. Number 1, the Harris brothers. Number 2, Lawler and Jarrett. Number 3, Christopher and Mike Miller. Number 4, Moondog Spot and Moondog Uncle Danny. Number 5, Jeff Gaylord and Reggie B. Fine. This is going to be our first look at Reggie B here on the podcast. He's been around the USWA off and on for a while, but this is the first time we will see him here. Of course, everybody knows what a fan I am of these guys, so I was pretty excited to see that Eddie and Doug Gilbert are going to be here competing in the tournament. The Masters of Terror, who ran Bill Dundee out of the territory. No good bastards. And then last but probably least, Tony Denucci and Scott Campione. We've been seeing this name. We've talked about this. We've been seeing this name on the Monday night card, Scott Campione. We haven't seen him here on television in the weeks that we've covered anyway. We're finally going to get to see what Mr. Campione is all about. How excited are we for that?
Oh, I can't wait, man. I bet he's a treat.
I thought it was Champion.
Scott Champion?
I thought it was Scott Champion the whole time. I was like, that's Scott Champion. Wasn't he a team with Firebreaker Chip?
He was.
That was why I was excited. I was like, oh, cool, Scott Champion.
I think it was his brother Todd.
That was Todd Champion.
Todd Champion,
but,
yeah.
You know.
Names.
There's a whole, and then there's Chris Champion. A few champions in wrestling. Scott, not one of them. We're going to see why here shortly. So the fun thing about this tournament, as we'll see going, throughout the show, is as there's a tournament match going on in the ring, in most cases, there's two other people at the commentary desk who are also involved in the tournament, who are usually talking trash about the guys in the ring. So here in the first match, we're going to see the Bruise Brothers with Mike Samples taking on Tony Denucci and Scott Campione. So that's seed number 1 gets seed number 8, and Nightmare Danny Davis and Richard Lee are going to be on commentary during this. We're not going to see a lot of it in the clip, but there was some fun lines in the commentary. For example, Mike Samples called Danny Davis a midget on the commentary at one point.
The biggest one.
Said that Davis looked like Barney Rubble. My favorite line from Moondog Uncle Danny was, "The Harris brothers seem extra mean today. I guess Miller fed them their mean pills today."
Oh my God.
Them old mean pills. So let's take a look at this clip, and then I'll get you guys' thoughts on this opening match of the tournament.
Corey, we'll try to do basically regular blow-by-blow account here, but Danny, you and Richard, jump in there anytime you'd like. Let me jump in, Dave. Hey, we have a couple of guest commentators. If you don't mind, if you would just be a manager and leave us alone, we'd appreciate it. Mike Samples.
Well, I understand your concern for my welfare, but I'm going to take a chance to come over here. Richard Lee, I see your arms healing nicely. You're at least able to walk now. Where'd you find this midget? Who is this guy with you?
Mike Samples.
For a long, long time.
Hey, these guys are mean today. I guess Mike Samples fed on their mean pills this morning.
Just didn't feed them. That's what he did.
You taking all their money and putting it in your pocket too, big boy, or do they know that yet?
No, I don't do Richard Lee tricks. I run a respectable organization.
Why don't you pay me the money you still owe me, this big boy? You run your mouth when you first came in here, telling me what all
sitting there with a busted up arm and a busted head, and all you got's a big mouth. One of your Moondogs is already out, and I can take responsibility for that.
I can have a few surprises up my sleeve too.
Which sleeve?
One right here.
You only got one
sleeve. You don't realize what you're in for. Yeah.
Well, the Bruise Brothers Ben's Campione over here, while Richard Lee and Mike Samples still into it. And I hope that you can take one look out here and see that you do not want to mess with these two men. It's not too much.
That happened.
So, okay, we got, a Harris brother match that didn't end in a DQ. Nobody ran in. So that's an improvement. That's moving in the right direction. At one point, they did a double whip, and one of the Harris whipped him by his hair. That's all he had hold of was Scott Campione's hair, which he had plenty of hair to get whipped by. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, I mean, these guys were pretty much just treated like, even though this is a tournament match and these guys are allegedly the number 8 team in all of the USWA, it still was pretty much treated like pretty much a straight up squash match. Other than Campione's most awkward body slams I think I've ever seen in my life. But what do you guys take on this match?
It was kind of like he was using gravity with his like some kind of weird force ability to make them slam themselves. It was weird, but I couldn't get into the match because I wanted to hear the commentary. Because when Mr. Uncle Danny walked out there, I was like, he looks like he is, because he's wearing tiger printed vest and tights, or I guess it's a singlet. And I was like, he looks like he's like trying to be like an 80s rocker / Rod Stewart type. It was throwing me off. And I was like, what does he remind me of? And when Mike Samples hit the line, he looks like Barney Rubble sitting out here. I've been sick for 3 weeks, and I had to pause the tape because I was laughing like a smoker in the 70s with bronchitis. I could not catch my breath. I thought I was going to have to find Mike Samples and sue him for damages of my lungs, because it was the funniest thing I've heard in my life. Because then they show a shot of Mr. Uncle Danny, and he's just sitting there with the blonde hair and the tiger print. next to a Moondog, which doesn't, or next to Richard Lee, which doesn't make it any better because it's like
Yeah.
the Moondog.
Well, they ain't gonna get Moondog Spot on commentary.
What if he just like, looks like he's got him in a great armbar there, Dave? He's like
See,
articulate.
if that would have happened though, that Mean Pills comment wouldn't even looked as bad.
No,
You'd have had all that other bullshit.
And did I hear Richard Lee discussing a beef about money that was owed? I'm assuming that was before we were watching.
Yeah, we kind of cut out of the middle of Richard Lee's money rant, but yeah. So most of the match on commentary was like, I mean, I know in recent years these roast battle things have become popular. It was almost like roast battle between Mike Samples and Richard Lee. They were just going back and forth, and then Uncle Danny caught some shrapnel there with the Barney Rubble line, and then had to jump in for a moment. But it certainly livened up the commentary this week, having these guys out there during the matches. And it kind of covered up for, a match like this that may not have been the greatest match in the world. Yeah. The commentary was certainly entertaining to listen to. But after the match, the Bruise Brothers assaulted Uncle Danny and Richard Lee at the table, throw Danny in the ring. They shoot him in for a double clothesline, but hey, he makes a comeback and hits them with a double clothesline. And then Moondog Spot comes in with a chair. All the while this is going on, Mike Samples is out there once again stomping Richard Lee's arm into a fine powder. But just like last week, despite having his arm just stomped relentlessly, he still had the intestinal fortitude to recover and cut a screaming promo before we go to break, because that's what Richard Lee does, brother.
Yeah, I thought the double clothesline from Uncle Danny looked a little weird.
He looked like Mr. Fantastic as far as he had to reach. But I think that's just because the Harris brothers maybe didn't know how far apart they should be spreading or something. I don't know.
I remember, and this is going to be an offshoot story, but I remember when I was younger, I was probably like first grade. Josh got me a picture of Uncle Danny that was signed. It said, "To Richard, best wishes," and it was just of him, and I think he had the global title on, and I remember I was being so excited. I went back to my grandmother, and I showed her the picture, and she always dipped snuff, so she talked like this right here, and she was like, "I don't know why you're so excited about getting his autograph. He's lost every match I've seen him in." And as I'm sitting there watching Uncle Danny pick a fight and then just get attacked head on, all I can think of is my grandmother going, "He should have seen that one coming."
You're like, "Well, Grandma, he won at least one match to get that belt right there." So we take our first commercial break of the day. And then I have to say, I'm pretty excited because when we come back from the break, now joining the table on commentary, Brian Christopher and Mean Mike Miller are going to be on the call for our next match, which is the King, Jerry Lawler, and Jeff Jarrett taking on the Masters of Terror. And I didn't get us a clip of this one. I mean, it was a decent little tag match. I mean, it's your standard TV match with, Brian's on commentary recapping last week's shenanigans with him and Lawler. Of course, Lawler and Jarrett do a classic tag team spot that me and Neil Taylor did with Jerry Lawler when we wrestled him and Derek King in Amory, Mississippi, some 20-something years later, where they hold him in the corner and he runs at him and the heel moves and all that good stuff. But other than that, Miller just mostly echoes and agrees with everything Brian says. He'll just repeat it and agree with it. He didn't really add much to the conversation throughout the contest. And then Lawler gets a win with a sunset flip, which we'll see when we go to break here shortly. But most of the action happened after the match. Is there anything you want to say about the match before we show a little bit of the post-match Brian Christopher and Jerry Lawler shenanigans?
Well, I liked how the match, because some of these matches that we've seen, you could tell that they're stretching it out. They're trying to fill TV time because they're not ready to go to break or somebody didn't show up or whatever. But this was just long enough, about 4 or 5 minutes. And it was a legit back and forth contest, not Lawler and Jarrett out there eating them up, and then just poof out of nowhere, sunset flip 1, 2, 3. I remember when this happened, I saw it and I was like, whoa, shit. You know, it was just out of nowhere. I love shit like that as a kid.
My only thought was like, who did the Masters of Terror tick off to be so like low rated? You know, on the they were 2 weeks removed from them just tearing up Bill Dundee and Danny, you know, power driving, you know, Bill on the floor and being like main event matches, to now they're like what, seventh rated team in this tournament?
Yes, they were rated below the team of Jeff Gaylord and Reggie B. Fine, who are teaming up for the very first time today. But yeah, they did. You talked about going from a team that was in a feud with, you know, two top wrestlers in the USWA and Bill Dundee and Danny Davis to being pretty much just job guys on TV for the most part. But, you know, like Josh said, this was a good little tag match. This just felt like something you'd see at the local spot show. You know, good little back and forth match. But when it's time, Lawler wraps it up and we do what we need to do. But yeah, they have quickly fell off as far as that goes. We are definitely enhancement level, you know, and when one of them's Ken Raper, you kind of expect that, no offense, but you know, Ken Wayne's always usually had pretty good status in Memphis up to now. But so let's take a look here. After the match, we had a little bit of fun with Brian Christopher and Jerry Lawler.
This young man here, he can go in there, and I tell you what, he'll have him whipped in less than 5 minutes. You watch.
Well, let's see. Brian Christopher is in the ring. Jerry Lawler standing there watching him, and he goes after him, and there goes Brian Christopher. What, did you slip, Brian? What?
Did you see that Jeff Jarrett was going to jump in there? Oh, you're going to try to take me 2-on-1.
No, he wasn't. 1 against 1.
I'm not stupid, Lawler. I'm not stupid. I know what you're up to.
Christopher, hightailed it out of there, boy. He got out of there quick, didn't he?
Boy, you might have known. Yeah, big man, he climbs in there. Lawler immediately pulled the strap down. He was ready to go. Christopher was out of there fast as I've ever seen a human being move. All right, let's check the brackets. In the bottom bracket, we are set to go. Lawler and Jarrett have advanced. They will be going against seed number 3 or number 6. And that match will be coming up a little bit later on today. Let's take a break. The tournament continues after this.
All right, so good, you know, good stuff from Brian. He's been. I didn't include everything in the clip, and folks should go back and check this show out because, you know, there's a lot of, you know, Brian like, oh, he don't want me to come in there, and Dave's like, he's already asked you 3 times to come in there, and he would run up, and then if he's asking me to come in there, he's asking for trouble, and then of course then you got Mike Miller over there like, he don't want him to come in there, he's asking for trouble. I enjoyed, even though it's, you know, I don't know, it's not going to be very long for this world. The duo of Brian Christopher and Mike Miller, so far, I'm liking this pairing. It's pretty fun.
Well, Mike said, I mean, he, with his estimation, nobody before or even in the future will ever defeat him and Brian. That's what he said. He's pretty confident.
Yeah, no one in the future. It don't matter who you send down here. They're not beating them. There's one fun moment there where Brian's teasing taking off his sequin jacket to get in the ring, and it literally won't unzip, and he finally just had to pull it up over his head to get it off.
And I want to point out, last week we mocked the fact that Lawler was a big fan of Sapphire, and what's he wearing this week? Polka dotted tights.
Exactly. So I think he played his hand there. I think that's a shoot. He really is. And I mean, and who's not a huge fan of Sapphire? Let's be honest. Why wouldn't you be? You know, perhaps the most charismatic, you know, manager of that time or any time for that matter. So who wouldn't be a huge fan of Sapphire? I'm assuming both of you guys are. I'm guessing if we were able to pan the camera over to the left, there's probably a huge poster of Sapphire on the wall.
Right over there.
We Sapphire, baby.
From that little known bikini shoot she did for WWF right before leaving.
Physically hurt.
I love that Richard's face showed that he literally pictured that right there. I had already put the wall up and didn't see it, but you did. So.
Now I'm going to have to sue. My wife's going to have to sue Gene for damages now.
Well, me, Mike Samples, boy, everybody's getting it this week.
Like, Lawler was acting like everybody remembered, which a lot of people, if you were plugged into wrestling back then, you knew what happened, whatever it was 3 years before, whenever she left. But did she not leave just horribly? Like she sold out to $1 Million Man. She was going to be his valet, and then maybe she was for like a match, and then he just sent her down her way. But she like healed the fuck out before she left.
Then she blew through all that money, apparently.
Yeah, see, that was to me was the funny part. Is like, all right, well, if we're, it's '93, we're still in the thick of kayfabe here. So if we're believing the kayfabe, she sold out to Teddy DiBiase and was loaded, and that's why she disappeared off TV and wasn't managing Dusty anymore. But now we're to believe that she clearly has blown through all that money to the point she's so desperate. She's got to come on TV and claim she's married to Bubba Johnson because Burt Prentice asked her to for a few bucks. And if we know Burt Prentice, it wasn't a lot, Maybe it was,
Mystery
$20 out of last night's, take at the intermission or something. But
I think at that show, Burt, we were talking about after the show last week, Richard, that he worked for you. He was selling eggs or something, wasn't he?
Easter eggs.
Yeah, it was.
That's what he gave her. He gave her an Easter eggs, like whatever's in there is your pay for the week.
Give this to your kids that you say you have 3 of with Bubba Johnson or 2 or however many. Because she said she had kids with Bubba Johnson, and I was just like, okay, that's a whole nother part of the story we don't even have time for, folks. Like, don't even travel down that road.
That didn't even come up again, did it?
No, we moved past that pretty quick. Corey's like, oh my God, let's not. Jeez. All right, guys. So we're going to take our first podcast commercial break right quick. And then when we come back, we're going to hear from the King and Jeff Jarrett. So we'll be right back.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling, the podcast that's based on the old school but can still help you find the good stuff from today. Jimmy Street and the Plastic Sheik, Jarrett, are the undisputed tag team champions of the wrestling podcast world. From thought-provoking topics to superstar interviews to action figure expertise. This team does it all, and all they ask is, give me back my pro wrestling! Every other Thursday, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hey guys, this is Wolfie D from PG-13. Check out my podcast, Live and in Color with Wolfie D, every Monday at noon. We're talking Memphis, we're talking ECW, WCW, WWF, everywhere that I've been. We even have some great guests, some Hall of Famers on the show with us. Every Monday at noon, Live and in Color with Wolfie D.
This is Wrestling Nostalgia, the podcast that dives into wrestling history. Hey, wrestling fans, I'm Dave Dynasty, and if you enjoy podcasts that are knowledgeable and history-driven, then Wrestling Nostalgia is for you. With great guests and fun interviews, there are over 200 episodes in our archives. We chat with several first-time guests and often cover topics not discussed on other podcasts. Look up Wrestling Nostalgia on your favorite podcast platform and visit all of our links at linktree/WrestlePod. That is linktr.ee/RASSLEPOD. And remember, where we go, what do we do? Be good, be safe, and keep on growing.
All right, as we went to commercial, you saw that flawlessly executed sunset flip by the King. And of course, they go to commercial, and we bring Jerry Lawler and Jeff Jarrett right back out here. Jeff Jarrett has some things to say. We're not going to go into all that. It's just kind of the usual thing. But I found this interesting as Jerry Lawler talks about how him and Jeff Jarrett's feud with the Moondogs got voted Feud of the Year in Pro Wrestling Illustrated for 1992, which was a fact. So let's take a look a little bit of this.
It's a tough tournament, but you all are looking good so far.
Yeah, you talk about it being a tough tournament. Well, the word tough is nothing new to Jeff and I. You can go to any newsstand. It's out on the newsstands right today. You pick up Pro Wrestling Illustrated. You pick up the Wrestling News. You pick up any of the national wrestling magazines, and you will see that at the end of the year, they have readers' polls and they have editors of the magazines vote on who is the wrestler of the year, who is the rookie of the year, who is the tag team of the year. And one of the main things that you find out in there is what was the feud of the year. who had, in all of professional wrestling, in the WCW, in the WWF, in all of professional wrestling, who had the biggest and the toughest feud, and you look it up, and the feud of the year was Jeff Jarrett and Jerry Lawler against the Moondogs. So the word tough is nothing new to us, because believe me, when you go for 7 months battling a team like the Moondogs, you know what the word tough means. So Brian Christopher, you big mouth punk, you sat out here and you hope that Jeff Jarrett and I lose. Well, I'm going to tell you something. I hope you win, because you see, if you win your first match, then that means you get us, pal. And we'll just see if that alligator mouth has overloaded that hummingbird rear end of yours. I think it has.
Oh, my.
Told him.
So those guys had won the feud of the year, and I thought it was fun in this promo too. You know, Lawler mentions that he's going to be heading to California the next day for the Royal Rumble, and I had forgotten about that. But yes, the King was in the 1993 WWF Royal Rumble, and we'll start seeing some after effects of that real soon here on USWA here on our podcast, and I'm looking forward to that.
Yes.
It's going to be fun. Then after that, Corey runs down the upcoming action coming up around the area with a couple of interruptions from Eddie Marlin and Richard Lee. And Richard Lee says the Moondogs will be making a personal appearance in Luxor, Arkansas.
At the Pizza Hut.
At the Pizza Hut. So how fun would that be to go and do a meet and greet with the Moondogs, and little kids are trying to talk to Spot, and he's like,
right.
And some of them are probably talking back to him exactly the same, and knew exactly what he was talking about. So that's fun.
We're tearing shit up, peeing on stuff.
I don't want to get too much on Lawler's wardrobe here, but do you think he wore that one strap because he was ashamed of that left nipple? Like, he always covered it up. Did he think it looked weird or something? Because you only saw it when he got mad.
I was going to say, and then he knew it was enough of a distraction that, you know, if he whipped that down, that not only are they going to be shocked that he's making a comeback, and he's like, what the hell is that? And then bam, 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 he's gone.
I would have whipped his ass, but that nipple was staring at me. I swear to God, it was staring at me.
Sure, winked at me.
It was like staring in the face of Medusa, staring at that left nipple.
I ain't talking about Lunder Blaze. I'm talking about, you know, the one in the whatever book that's in. You know what I'm talking about, man. So we take a break on the TV show, and when we return, we've been seeing this name popping up. So when Corey's been running down the last few weeks, when Corey's running down all the action coming around to Jonesboro and, you know, Batesville, Mississippi, and these different places. I had a screenshot last week. I forgot to show it, but I thought it was fun, where they advertised a ladies cat fight. And I was like, so did we have to add ladies that just to make sure that people didn't think we were advertising two cats fighting in the ring? Because, you know, this is Memphis. Times get tough.
With that stick. Get him in that cage.
But we've been seeing the Honky Tonk Man's name appearing on all these cards. And suddenly, for the first time, the Honky Tonk Man appears in the studio, comes out and introduces himself to Dave Brown, and Corey Macklin makes the point to come up and introduce himself to Honky Tonk Man like he's fixing to sell him ads on the local TV station or something. And at first, it appears that Honky Tonk Man is going to be a babyface the way he's interacting with Dave and Corey, but shortly into the talk, it starts to look a little differently. Let's listen to some of this.
That's the Honky Tonk Man coming out here.
Honky Tonk Man.
It sure is. I noticed when you were doing Out of Town that he was going to be in one of the cities around here. Honky Tonk Man.
Honky Tonk Man. Nice to meet you,
It's
Dave.
good to see you.
You on TV and seeing everything that's going on.
Honky Tonk Man, I haven't met you. I've seen you on TV. My name is Corey Macklin.
Corey, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet
want
you.
to say hello to all of my friends and all of my fans that's been waiting for the Honky Tonk Man. You know, Dave, I've watched the show on several occasions. The Honky Tonk Man lives around here.
I've heard that.
Honky Land USA. It's a big theme park, open all day long to the public, just for my friends and all of my fans. But the one thing that I wanted to clear up, I've been on the phone on several occasions. I've spoken with the USWA promoter, Eddie Marlin. And for some unknown reason, the Honky Tonk Man, either I can't communicate with him, or this old decrepit Eddie Marlin, maybe Alzheimer's has set in on him and he can't hear straight. But the reason I'm here now is to meet him face to face. You see, I make a statement. The Honky Tonk Man, if there's something wrong, I step up to the plate and I say something's wrong. I'm not afraid to say what I feel. Now, for some reason, I can't get the kind of matches that I deserve because I am the greatest of all time, Dave. And when you introduce me, you say I'm the great.
Let me interfere here. I've talked to you on the phone several times. It's right. I may be old, but I'm not hard of hearing. Evidently, you're hard of hearing. You may be a big star all over the world.
No, I'm not a big star. I'm the greatest of all time.
Okay, that's your opinion. But in the USWA, I'm the star. I book the matches. You may go call all the other promoters and say, I want this match, and this match. And they bow to you and get it. But here, you work your way up. You don't start just picking your matches.
See, there's the problem we have right there. There's a communication breakdown with you, Eddie Marlin. Now, I don't know. I say, no, it's you. It's maybe it's the Alzheimer's that set in. When I tell you that I want and I deserve championship matches and I want to wrestle the best talent the USWA has to offer, that's what I expect.
I mean,
The Alzheimer's is setting in, guys.
that's what we were just talking about.
Well, that and Eddie Marlin proclaiming he was the star of USWA. And if you want to get up to him, you got to go through Lawler, Jarrett, all of them.
Yeah, we got a little more to watch here in a second, but that's how I had to cut this clip there just so we could stop and talk about that. Like Eddie Marlin proclaiming, I'm the star, I'm the booker. Like, what the hell are we doing? Like,
I do love the fact that Corey has promoted Honky Tonk Man at all these events. And Dave Brown goes, hey, it's the Honky Tonk Man. And Corey was like, Honky Tonk Man? Like, who?
That's the last person I expect to see here today. He's an actual wrestling star. Hi, I'm Corey McElhaney. He sounded like he was running for office or something. I don't know. It was just the most strange introduction. Like, hi, Corey McElhaney. Like, he's never seen him, and like, there's no chance he's ever seen the show in his life. Like, I want Honky to be like, yeah, I've seen the show. I know you are, dude. Like, you're the ridiculous guy. Of course, I know you are. So at this point, Jeff Jarrett decides to get involved. So got another little clip here. Let's look at a little bit of the interaction between Honky and Jeff Jarrett.
I don't think I know this young man.
Now, Honky Tonk Man, I was going to sit back there and listen to you run your mouth, but I already heard just enough. You out here and say that I duck and I dodge everybody and I still get the title shot? Well, pal, obviously you had, just wait just a second. Obviously you don't watch the TV good enough because just a few short weeks ago I was the Southern Heavyweight title holder until 4 or 5 guys had to jump me, and that's how Brian Christopher's the champion.
What I'm saying is you're protected. I'm saying that people like you in the USWA hide behind Eddie Marlin's coattail, and I ask for championship matches, and what are you doing out here anyway? You don't have a belt. You're not a champion. Why are you even talking to me? Well, I don't recall ever formally meeting this young man, by the way.
Well, come on, Honky Tonk. Yeah, you know who I am, Honky Tonk. Yeah, you think you come out here and you want to say you're a big star, and you can call all the promoters up and get any title shot you want. Well, who have you beat recently? No. Where are you rated in any ratings? You ain't nowhere, Honky Tonk. You got to work your way up. Now, if you want a title shot, you go to Eddie Marlin and you go through the right avenues. But if you want to wrestle somebody, why don't you wrestle me right here today? And if you beat me, I guarantee you, you will be a title contender, because I sure am.
The simple reason I'm not going to do that, and I don't want to do it, is because I want championship matches of championship caliber people. And you, it's like I said, I don't know you. In fact, I've only heard of you. I've heard of you through people like Eddie Marlin. Somebody you hide behind because you get the kind of matches you want.
Well, I guess you've heard of Jarrett Lawler, hadn't you? Well, me and him held the tag titles for several months. I guess you've heard of Brian Christopher, maybe not.
Right.
Well, I just held the title before he did. What, Eddie?
Wait just a second. You say that I protect this young man?
You do.
He just challenged you to a match. I will sign that match. I wasn't going to start you that high up, but I will sign that match if you want to get in the ring with Jeff Jarrett.
First of all, since I don't know anything about him other than the fact of what you do for him, I don't take a challenge from somebody who doesn't have a championship belt. It's not championship caliber material. Now, if it's Brian Christopher, he's got a belt. If it's Jerry Lawler, fine. These people have the championship belt. Hey, the belt looks good around my waist. I need it, I want it, and I got to have it.
What titles have you held recently?
If You won a championship match.
Let him answer that. Well, what titles have you held recently?
The greatest of all time. That's all that matters. I don't know anything about this punk. As far as I'm concerned, case closed. I get what I want, Eddie Marlin.
Without you.
I don't need a match with this punk. He's not going to make a name off of me. That's just how it is.
So Honky Tonk had just spent a couple of minutes that we didn't see talking about Jeff Jarrett. Then Jeff Jarrett shows up. And he's like, I don't know who this guy who this guy is.
I've heard of him.
So Honky's saying that he wants to wrestle a champion, I guess inferring, Jerry Lawler. I love Jeff Jarrett goes, well, I used to, I teamed with Lawler, and I used to have the Southern Heavyweight title, and I know you know who Lawler is, and Brian Christopher's a champion. I know you may not know who he is, but let's assume that he does, Jeff. Okay, let's assume that he knows who Brian Christopher is.
I do like the fact that Honky Tonk Man said Eddie Marlin was protecting Jeff. And Eddie was like, no, I'm not doing that. But then gave off the vibes of a man that was coaching the high school football team and had his son as quarterback. Because he's like, I'm going to put you up against him. I don't think you're ready for him, though. Like he gave off.
He said, I wasn't going to start you.
I wasn't going to start you off that high. It's like, but you can go head to head with my relative here.
I like that Jeff said, who have you beaten lately? And then they kind of blow past that. Then he circles back around to, what's the last title you held, huh? Who have you beaten lately? It looked like Honky was kind of genuinely annoyed at that. Like, all right, we know I ain't been on WWTV in 3 years now. Let's not be dicks.
Was it like basically the cool thing about this, though? You had Jeff Jarrett there who was going to go on in another year or so and be the music guy. They always seem to have a music guy, and Honky Tonk Man just left as the music guy of WWE. As like the only bridge you have there was what, Man Mountain Rock, maybe
that was after.
So I mean, like, that's just kind of cool to me. I know that's a weird thing to think, but it's like you got one big music guy for WWF from the 80s talking and starting a thing with the 90s music guy. I just thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, these two could have had a guitar on a pole match, a few months later, and it had would have had a completely different theme to it. Once Jeff went and became the country music star a few months after what we're seeing here. But yeah, it's ironic for those two to be squaring off here when they have that tie-in later on. But so I'm assuming, based on this, that we're going to see Jeff wrestling the Honky Tonk Man at some of the spot shows. And I don't think that Honky ever turns up on a Monday night card, and this is one of the only times we ever see him on TV. So it's really weird. You think they would, there he lives there. He's got Honky Land USA, which I wanted to ask you guys. How many trips did you guys ever make to Honky Land USA? I mean, I'm sure that had to be a pretty big vacation spot for everybody back in the day.
I think that's probably in the same vein of that Twitty City, man. It was talked about, but I'm not sure it was ever a thing. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's a shame.
Like Dollywood.
Oh, Dollywood is a thing.
What?
Oh, Dollywood's a big thing. And Honky Land USA probably would have been had they actually made good on it. If him and brother Ernest Angel would have got together and combined their efforts, it would probably still be going to this very day. But
was you a little disappointed not to see the guitar used? Like when I saw it, it was like, when's he going to hit him with it? And he adjusted the grip on it a couple times, like, here it comes, and he never used it.
Yeah, because I'm thinking, well, this could be your ticket to why Jeff and Lawler don't win the titles if they don't win the titles, because he got a guitar cracked over him at one point. Maybe Honky's like, hey, y'all don't pay me for TV. I'm not wasting a guitar on TV.
Right.
And Jeff's like, I don't get paid for TV. You're not breaking a freaking guitar over me on a side angle. That's really not even the main thing I got going on right now. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, at least maybe if Corey would have ate a guitar, it would have been something, but that probably would have been misconstrued after he gave him such a nice welcome and introduction. There was no need for him to attack poor Corey. So, which
is important to Honky Tonk Man. You heard him was like, I hadn't even met Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah, he's got to meet these folks.
Introductions.
So maybe that does explain why Corey was so adamant about going over and formally introducing himself to the greatest of all time.
Yes.
So now we're ready for match number 3 of the tournament and of the show today, as Moondog Spot and Uncle Moondog Nightmare Danny Davis take on what was supposed to be the much anticipated, I'm sure, reunion of the Howard Hughes connection, Jeffrey Howard Gaylord and Mr. Hughes. But unfortunately, travel issues allegedly came into play. Mr. Hughes wasn't there, so stepping in, Reggie B fine for this tag team match. And again, we had some fun stuff on commentary at different points here. There was a fun line from Burt Prentice where he referred to their stable as the Samples Foundation, and Dave Brown quipped that the Samples Foundation was a non-profit organization. And Prentice quickly corrected him, saying, "No, we make plenty of profit." But perhaps funnier than that to me, I don't know if you guys really paid much attention to this, but Mike Samples brings up, and this is probably the first time that the Wrestling Observer was probably mentioned on Memphis TV. But Mike Samples mentions that Dave Brown was voted #1 wrestling announcer in the Wrestling Observer, and Corey was voted the 8th worst.
I didn't know if he was just spouting off that shit, or like, was it a legit thing? Like, back in '92, was that the deal?
I don't know. Dave Brown, I guess I should have looked that up just to see if there was any truth to that, because I definitely could see, with Lance out of the picture, Dave actually probably getting voted for some kind of award in the Wrestling Observer with those fans. And knowing those fans, I definitely could see them shitting on Corey Macklin and voting him worst. So that could have all been legit, because it just felt weird for Samples to bring up the Wrestling Observer on TV. Right. And Dave even pointed this out. He was initially flattered at Samples bringing that up, but then when he dunked on Corey Macklin, he's like, "Well, originally I was happy you said that, but now that you said that, now I'm not." So we got a little clip of this match. So let's take a look here as Gaylord and Reggie B take on Moondog Spot and Moondog Uncle Danny Nightmare.
For Gaylord and Reggie B fine to defeat these two idiots. Originally, this was supposed to be Mr. Hughes, but due to travel connections, probably fouled up by Danny Davis or Moondog Spot. Mr. Hughes can't be here, but we're going to do fine with Reggie B fine.
Travel connection. He wouldn't show up and wrestle Danny Davis and the Moondog, I suspect, is what happened there, right?
Of course, you're dreaming once again. This is kind of a dark horse tag team for us. Of course, as Bert explained, Mr. Hughes is going to be here. We really thought this tournament was going to take place all next week. They surprised us today with the little TV tournament, and we had to make a little substitution.
So thank you and appreciate what you had to say, and then you had to say that.
Yeah, well, Mike Samples, coming from you, I tell you, that's just like you.
Mike, wasn't I voted the best manager in professional wrestling?
You were the #1 manager.
Hey, your dark horse team just had the curtains drawn. Your team, the Sample Foundation has just went down in there. Gaylord and Reggie B fine. That's right. Jeff Gaylord can't be beaten by these guys. What's going on, Dave? You're in on this thing, man. What?
Not in on anything. You saw it right there in the ring.
So a big flying clothesline from Moondog Spot, and then shades of Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Nightmare Danny Davis coming off the top with a big crossbody. They secure the win. Before we get into that, did you guys catch that at the beginning? I'm going to pull this back up for just a second. So when this pops up on screen, be watching the right side of the screen right here.
For Gaylord and Reggie B fine to defeat these two idiots. Originally, this was supposed to be Mr.
This guy walks on screen in the middle of a live match, and he catches himself and his back's back out.
Oh, that's great.
I edit these videos from like these local comedy shows, and it happens like 500 times, but you just don't expect to see it on live Memphis TV that's going out all over the place there. But what did you guys think of the team of Jeff Gaylord and Reggie B fine?
Seemed kind of just thrown together, but like you said, it was literally thrown together. But I don't know. Jeff Gaylord looks so good, but I guess it's his other stuff that kind of held him back the whole time. But you figure with a guy like that, they'd try to push his ass up the ladder a little bit further or get him a little higher seated or something. But either way, I mean, it was a great match. Uncle Danny won, that's always a positive.
That high cross body hit him with
super high cross body.
Hit him with those balls of steel right in the face, knocked him right out.
The first one looked good though. The first one he hit 2 of them in the match, man.
That's true. Poor Reggie took him right to the dome, but yeah, that was to be the most makeshift tag team of all time. Nightmare Danny Davis and Moondog Spot. They looked good in there, and looked very believable in getting the win. And I've always, maybe not in this area yet, but I've always been entertained by Reggie B in later years as he got more time on the mic and the big fur coats and the pimp gimmick. And good Lord, if you go all the way up to, when he deep fried Coco's parrot in way later years. Well, I'm sure we'll be seeing more of Reggie B in the weeks to come, so we won't spend a lot of time talking about him. But yeah, man, what you said about Gaylord, Josh, is I was kind of shocked. So like I had kind of fell out of getting able to see you because of not having the Memphis channel and where I lived in Mississippi for a little while. Wasn't able to watch Memphis for like a couple of years there. And when I started back watching, I was like, man, this Gaylord guy must be like a brand new guy, because he's muscular. He's got a good look, but he's obviously not a great wrestler. And then I later find out, like, no, this dude's been in the business since 1985. Like, this dude was an 8-year veteran at the time. And this is the best he could do. So, I think it goes back to kind of what we heard at the beginning of the match last week when Dave Brown was just dunking on the mental capacity of poor Jeff in the most polite Dave Brown kind of way. But it was still.
I'm not saying fun. He's an idiot, but he does that little smirk.
When he signed his contract, his R's were backwards.
So then we go to a commercial break and we come back. We got a promo from Sweet Sapphire and Miss Texas. Well, let's just let's take a look at a little bit of this action here too, as we're going to hear from Sapphire and Miss Texas, and Bert Prentice is going to get pretty damn fired up about it. He's going to come into the ring and challenge them to come to the ring and fight him. And just let's take a look at what happens.
Well, with the big tournament, I don't know all the matches that are coming up this week, but I know one of them. It's going to be Sapphire and Miss Texas going against Bert Prentice and Leslie Ballinger.
That's right. And first, I'd like to thank Mr. Eddie Lawler for letting me come here and be a part of the show. And the main thing I want to thank him for is to give me a chance to pick this bone with Mr. Prentice. He brought me here, had me to embarrass myself in front of all my friends, trying to say I was married to a woman. That's not true. I'll tell you one thing. Now, he may be a funny man. I don't know about that. But I'm going to show him, baby, I am not a funny woman. You know what I mean?
Well, I think we hear you.
Whoa. Hold on, girlfriend. Hold on. I deserve the first shot at Buffalo Butt, okay? All right. I've been trying to get him in the ring one-on-one. Bert Prentice, when I get you in the ring, I'm going to kick your fat butt all around the ring. And Leslie, you stick your nose in my business, I'm going to beat you like I own you.
Now, wait a minute. Prentice has just climbed into the ring. What are you doing?
He's saying, come on.
No. The match, no, Miss Texas, be careful. Miss Texas goes right after it.
She gets on Prentice over there and goes to work on Bert Prentice.
Look out. Mike Samples has got Sapphire from behind, and Leslie Ballinger jumps into the ring and grabs Miss Texas.
Yeah, she's got Miss Texas holding her over there. Holding on to Miss Texas. Look at Prentice. Takes a strap off his pants in there and lashing Miss Texas. Boy, I didn't even think Bert Prentice wore a belt. He comes in here, takes it off, and lashing away on Miss Texas in there.
Okay, there's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot to cover there. So first of all, Miss Sapphire tells us that Bert Prentice may be a funny man, but she ain't no funny woman.
Funny
what
how?
does that translate to back then? You can't say that.
How am I funny? Funny how?
I want to do a Carl Childers impression from Sling Blade right now, but I can't.
Oh man, Corey
Just
had the
leave it.
biggest.
We'll just leave
Corey
it
had
at
the biggest smirk on his face when she said that. I just looked. And he's
I've been noticing that these last couple of weeks since he's been back, that watching Corey's expression is almost as fun. I've had a lot of fun watching Dave's expression because he makes that, the Jim mugging to the camera, as we pointed out a few times now. But Corey's got his own facial reactions going on in the background most of the time as well that are pretty fun. And that, like you said, that's one of the most obvious ones I've seen so far. Me and a couple of my buddies in college, like one of our guilty pleasures in life was listening to Miss Texas promos and getting such a kick out of them because they were so unintentionally funny most of the time. I'm going to beat you like I own you.
but she would get like such a serious moment going, just like she's
Yes.
so good in the ring, dude. Like that's one thing I loved about Miss Texas. She was so fucking good. And then she'd get on the mic right after all fired up, and then she's like, I'm gonna kick your booty, baby, and just walk away, like all of that for that.
I remember, like, the one thing that really stands out for me, like me and my buddy Mike and Shane, we were watching like in the heyday of like Nitro, and when she was managing Kevin Sullivan, and then they were feuding with Benoit and Nancy Sullivan, and Kevin Sullivan's like, Benoit, we're gonna what do you got to say about it, Jackie? Woman got laid like a chicken. And then Mean Gene starts just dies. He turns bright red. He goes, like what? Like a chicken. She got laid like a damn chicken. And Sullivan goes from like, I'm going to kill you, to just like covering his face. And Mean Gene's just bright red. And Jacqueline's just dead ass serious, but it sounds so ridiculous. But I don't know. Like you say, I mean, she's one of the toughest people in the sport. And then like, every time I see her go to the mic, like, don't let her get on the mic. Don't. Okay, she's getting on the mic. All right, I'm gonna beat you like I own you. Like, oh Lord, like Sapphire's already done dropped one, and now here comes this. But also was entertained. So like, Miss Texas and Bert Prentice are fighting in the ring, and Sapphire is just kind of watching from the ring apron. She's making no move to get in this ring, and here comes Samples out there to grab her to detain her. I'm like, dude, she wasn't getting in that ring. Like, she wasn't even making a move to get in the ring. And that was the most awkward. him holding her at ringside looked like some sort of assault charge was getting ready to happen.
All you needed was just him whispering, just let it happen.
Exactly. Dusty can't save you now.
I would have paid good money to see her try to get in that ring. There was no stairs at TV.
I mean, Samples didn't have to stop her from getting in the ring. He would have had to drop down on the floors and let him step across her back to get into the ring if there was any hope of that happening. Yeah. But I think my favorite line beyond the two we heard from Sapphire and Miss Texas is as Bert Prentice pulls his belt off and starts strapping Miss Texas, Corey Macklin says, he's strapping Miss Texas in there. I didn't even know Bert Prentice wore a belt. And I was like, was that a dig saying that he wears elastic pants because he's fat? Like, why did you not think Bert Prentice wears a belt?
Right. Like, I've never thought of that. Like, Dave should have stopped. Like, what are you talking about? I've never thought, is this person wearing a belt or not?
Yeah, Corey, I never spent a lot of time pondering that. I don't know why you were, but moving on. But anyway, so this sets up what's sure to be another fun tag team match coming up this Monday night. But anyway, we go to a commercial break, and as we return, Dave Brown says that Eddie Gilbert isn't here, and this brings out brings out Doug Gilbert rather to address what Dave just mentioned. So let's hear from not quite dangerous yet, Doug Gilbert.
Doug?
What's this right here? Tag team tournament I see, right?
Yeah, but I'm told that Eddie's not here. Is that right?
You know, Dave, a lot of people, everybody out here knows Eddie Gilbert's my older brother, right? Everybody out here. Okay, what everybody don't know, Dave, is me and Eddie,
have had a few problems. Yes, Eddie's older than me, and when I was smaller than him, he beat me up a lot, Dave. He beat me around, kicked me around. But when I was about 18 years old, I started growing. When he was about 18, he quit growing. Now, I'm still the younger brother, but I'm not the smaller brother. So what I'm saying, Dave, Eddie's got a problem. He's got this disease. You know what I mean? Have you heard about it? It's where your mouth runs off before your brain can think about what you're saying. I carried him to the airport yesterday. He was going to Philadelphia to wrestle Terry Funk. He says, I'm going to catch the early morning flight, and I'll be back. I said, fine. He calls this morning, and his stupid butt missed the early morning flight. So, Dave, what does that tell you? But, hold on. I'm already here. So I've been looking around this morning. I see a young man, I think his name's Tony Denucci or something like that, right?
He was in the opening match here, yeah.
Okay. I'll take him. It looks like he got beat up on a little bit, but I'll take him, and you put him with me, and we'll win the tournament.
Well, it's fine with me. I mean, I guess, if it's all right with the promotion, I don't mind. Tony Denucci was in the opening match. His partner was actually the one who was pinned in here.
All right, so in the beginning of the show, I was excited to hear the Gilberts were going to be here. Now I'm kind of bummed out to hear that Eddie's not here. In my research for the show, in the Observer, they said that it was true. Eddie did go to Philadelphia. He did wrestle Terry Funk the night before, and he did legit miss his flight, and that's why he wasn't there. So this was kind of I guess a shoot more or less of why he wasn't there. So Doug just arbitrarily picks Tony Denucci to be his tag team partner here to take on Brian Christopher and Mean Mike Miller. And now Jerry Lawler and Jeff Jarrett are going to sit in on commentary during this match. And bless his heart, Jerry Lawler is firing off jokes these were old jokes in 1993 when he was telling them, but holy, in 2024, they feel even more dated. But man, he was letting them fly. I mean, what were y'all's thoughts on the running commentary from Lawler and Jarrett in this match?
I mean, I liked it. It was just so interesting to me that, it was a different set of tag teams each match, and that's something like that you didn't really get to see in Memphis or anywhere really that I can think of, where so many guys were on commentary for one single show. And with that, you get to find out who's funny and who's not. And dude, if it wasn't for commentary, I wouldn't look at Bobby Heenan the same way. Bobby Heenan, the reason I fell just that's my absolute number one favorite manager all time was because of commentary. He was just that good. And like you said, man, Lawler, he was just one right after another. It was sometimes it was almost to the point, knowing what we know now, he was getting kind of close to he's going after Christopher a little bit. What does he mean by that? I know what he means now, but it's funny to look back under that lens,
That's true. So we're going to take a look at a clip of the match here. We got a couple of minutes of it here to look at. And then afterwards, we'll talk about what happened in the match and the aftermath. So let's take a look at Mean Mike Miller and Brian Christopher taking on Doug Gilbert and Tony Denucci.
They're ready to take him on now. Kid, give him a run for his money.
He spent 10 minutes out here challenging Jerry and then immediately ran back to the dressing room when Jerry made a move at him.
That's one thing about Brian. He runs his mouth a lot, but I believe he's got a little bit upstairs. He knew not to take it on one-on-one.
Tony Denucci in trouble here against Brian Christopher.
Christopher takes Denucci, whips him in hard, and goes in after, but nobody home. Brian, yeah. Couple of big shoulders on Doug in there. Thanks, Doug Gilbert. Doug leaps over the corner there and comes back with a little chop on Christopher. Climbs the top rope. Look at that. Oh, nice shot, Doug Gilbert. Yes, sir. Maybe right here. We're going to be from Doug and Tony. Oh, no. Oh, yeah, I thought he may have had him there, too.
Yeah, I believe Brian did one of his nuances there. He did the whole, please help, please help.
Mike Miller up on the middle rope. He comes down and slams away on Doug Gilbert.
Yeah, they doubled up on him.
Mike Miller. Oh, Miller just shoves Doug Gilbert over there, and Doug picks up Denucci again and sets Denucci up. Oh, boy!
What's that?
He does clothesline. Tony Denucci is on top.
What's the matter with him?
Boy, Doug Gilbert is furious after trying to get some tag from Denucci and just clothesline Tony Denucci.
Boy,
I don't know.
Doug's leaving.
Come back and help your partner.
Doug's gone.
Yeah, he's out of here. He's left Denucci to fend for himself.
Yeah, Dave, he's gone. He left him, and Christopher covers Denucci and gets the 1, 2, 3.
I got to say, the leg drop version of the demolition finish there, it was a pretty good tag team maneuver by those two. I wasn't expecting that.
Right.
We've been 3 weeks or 4 weeks now watching Mike Miller, and this is the only time we've seen him do wrestling moves. He did 3 on this one, and that one was the best one. The other 2 look so dangerous. Like,
and I apologize for those not making it into the
No.
clips. I wish I'd at least got that neck breaker he did, because
good God.
Whew, that was
Denucci,
something.
man, he about lost a knee, didn't he?
But
Yeah,
I wasn't disappointed in this match, but I couldn't focus. And here's why, because one, I was sad because Eddie wasn't there. I was big on Eddie Gilbert. Now, when I heard he was going to be there, I was like, yes. But the second thing was when Doug came out in that gear, it sparked a memory for me. Those tights were made by the one and only grandmother of Josh.
Granny Briley.
And the reason why I know that was because when Global was running, Josh entrusted me with a secret that I wish can I tell the secret now, Josh?
It's been long enough, yeah.
We were like 8 years old at the time or so. And he told me that the Dark Patriot was Doug Gilbert.
Get out of here.
And he told me not to tell anyone.
No one.
And I immediately told a friend that we were
that same
day.
fucking day.
Like, I think I was like, sure, your secret's safe with me.
He didn't think I'd find out about it.
Justin, guess what Josh just told me? So Josh finds out, and it leads to like the biggest fight and argument we've ever had, because we still think all this is on the up and up. Eddie's gonna find out it's Doug. You're gonna ruin Christmas for the Gilberts. First off, and 2, I trusted you with a secret. My grandmother made those tights. So basically admitting to me that his grandmother was in on the evil forces of the Dark Patriot. All that to be said, he's wearing the gear right there in the show. And when I saw it, I was like, it's the Dark Patriot gear. That's the biggest fight when a husband and wife have a fight. When you have a best friend fight, you have the biggest fight of your life. You see something that was around. Those tights reminded me that almost ended our friendship.
That was close.
That was close.
I was going to find a new motherfucking bus stop.
Yeah.
Richard did not know the meaning of kayfabe back in those days. He just immediately goes and rats out with it.
I did.
And the thing
I love how open he was about it. I was like, he told me the secret, told me not to tell him. I told somebody the same day.
And it wasn't somebody at school that I
These
didn't
guys.
have a class with. He told the dude who lived down the street that was going to talk to me eventually,
Could have been ended, all of that.
And what's up with that, dude? Even before the match started, like the biggest pop that I've pretty much had of all of these reviews was Brian. He's handing his gear out and he's still got the belt clutched, and then he just gives a big lick to he licks the whole belt, and then and Corey Macklin, he popped me with that licking the belt. Come on now, Brian.
If anything, deserved a ridiculous that did.
That just got all over me.
It's cold flu season.
You know
What's he doing?
You know how many men's done held that belt? Come on now, Brian.
Yes. He did. He licked that. We all,
felt like a
see how
dog
people treat
marking
these
his
belts.
territory.
You couldn't pay me to lick a wrestling belt. Like, I don't care if he had just sanitized it before he walked out there. Good Lord. But so, in the course of the match, they kind of told a little bit of a story of, Denucci trying to get a tag, or Doug trying to tag in, Denucci not able to pull it off. But I don't know, like, just the turn at the end just felt kind of arbitrary, like kind of out of nowhere. It's like, well, all right, you know, you picked this dude to be your partner. Now you just turned on him because you couldn't get him to tag when you want him to or whatever. But I don't know. It didn't really build throughout the match or anything. Right. It just kind of felt like, yeah, all right, well, yeah, he turned on him. We figured that would happen. And but we got to where we needed to be. Now the team of Mike Miller and Brian Christopher are going to advance. Jerry Lawler and Jeff Jarrett have advanced. Moondog Spot and Nightmare Danny Davis have advanced, and so has the Harris brothers. So there's our wonderful handmade tournament poster there. So that's where they have us by the end of the show here. Now we're going to take a quick podcast commercial break, and then when we come back, you know, we'll talk about what we usually talk about. And we will mention here after the end of this match, we had a totally, after the television break, we had another totally unnecessary promo from the Harris twins, more Bubba Johnson talk from Burt Prentice, and then a final word from Mike Samples. I didn't get a clip of that because I think we've got that covered, right? Did we need some more of that today? I don't want anybody to feel like that I robbed them of anything, but let's go to our last commercial break, and then it's time to run down the card for the Mid-South Coliseum and see what this was all getting us to.
Hey guys, Ray Russell here, curator of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, inviting you guys to listen to many of the programs here as part of the WrestleCopia brand, including, but not limited to, the Wrestling Memory Grenade, currently covering the 1988 and the WWF project. You can also listen to the Regional Wrestling Podcast, where we talk the territories, whether it's Jamie Ward with Georgia 81, Roman Gomez with the UWF in 1986, or Gene Jackson covering Memphis in 85. 3 projects going on right now over there at Regional Wrestling. You can also listen to the Wrestling Stoop with the legend himself, Bob Roop. Bob goes back in time each and every week, covering not just his career, but countless stories and interactions with hundreds of wrestling names spanning his 2 decades in the business. But that's not all. You can also check out the Puro Wrestling Academy with the professor of Puro Resu, Mr. Dan Ginnity. Dan and I go back in time and cover the history of Japanese professional wrestling in the English language. And you can listen to all of those shows and more, all part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, located over at WrestleCopia.com. That's WrestleCopia.com, and anywhere your podcast streaming needs are met, from Apple to Spotify, Pocket Cast, and beyond. And while you're at it, why not subscribe to our social media guys for all the latest goings on here at the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Plus, I'm constantly adding old school video clips and pictures from throughout wrestling history. You can follow us over on X, formerly Twitter, at Wrestling Grenade. That's at RASSLIN Grenade. Also, follow and like me, Facebook.com/Wrestling Grenade. And why not subscribe to YouTube.com/Wrestling Grenade. So if you're looking to support that next up-and-coming podcast brand, please consider making it WrestleCopia.
All right, let's let Dave Brown tell us what's coming up Monday night at the Mid-South Coliseum.
We've got a preliminary match that is now scheduled. Tony Denucci, who was not able to advance today, and partly because his partner abandoned him out here in the match. Well, he will be going against Terror number 1 in the opening match Monday night at the Mid-South Coliseum. Following that, Jeff Gaylord will be booked in a single match against Scott Campione. Then coming up with a special feature, you listen to this, Burt Prentice, Sapphire and Miss Texas in the ring against Burt Prentice and Leslie Bellinger. Book it. It'll be there Monday night. Won't be any of this inviting in, and it's 3 against 2. It's 1-2 against 1-2, Burt Prentice.
And don't run it either, Prentice.
Yeah, come Monday night. Then,
come on,
get out of here with that. Yeah. And we're going to continue. The second round, actually, of the USWA tournament. First round match is here today. And in the second round, the number 4 seeds, Moondog Spot and Danny Davis with Richard Lee, have advanced to go against the number 1 seeds, Ron and Don Harris. Mike Samples will be in the corner with them. Then, following that, in the in the other second round match, you've got the King and Jeff Jarrett, the number 2 seeds in the tournament, against the number 3 seeds in the tournament, Brian Christopher and Mike Miller. There are wrestling fans all over America who have been waiting to see a confrontation just such as this one coming up, and it will happen at the Mid-South Coliseum Monday night. You'll have the chance to see it right there in the Coliseum.
Yes,
and
sir.
then, main event of the night, the winners, of course, of the 2 second-round matches, the semifinals, will advance to the main event, the finals of the USWA Tag Tournament, and the winners of that match that night will be crowned USWA World Tag Team Champions.
All right, guys, this time is that all-important time in the show where I got to ask you a few questions. So, having watched today's episode, question number 1, what was your least favorite part of today's show?
I would say the part where, like you said, all the interviews came at the end, where it was like rapid fire. This is what we're doing. Don't forget we're heels. This is, I was just, I wasn't too thrilled about that. And the least favorite part too, I would have to say, is the not showing up of certain wrestlers like Mr. Hughes and Eddie, which I didn't know about Mr. Hughes, but Eddie I was excited about, and that kind of was a letdown when I found out he wasn't there.
Right. All right, Josh, which Harris Brothers segment did you not like this week?
All of them.
Surprise, surprise, man. The Harris Brothers and Scott Campione and Tony Denucci match was my absolute least favorite thing going on. Because, I mean, like we talked about before, we're supposed to believe that Tony and Scott are going to pose a threat, or at least something, to these guys in this tournament. And they literally just ate them alive for 4 minutes. Just 4 minutes. And like Scott Campione, he came in and did some really unnatural movements, and then got it like a half-ass, looked like it was going to be a comeback, and that derailed quicker than a fucking bottle rocket. And they just cut it off, and I mean, just ended him. And it was just, I don't know, man. It was very unnecessary. I felt like, I mean, if it's not going to be a match, then why show it?
Really Campione that one up.
Get somebody else in there that it'll actually do something. It's supposed to be a tournament, not just a fucking job match. And maybe it is something with the Harris twins. Maybe I don't like the Harris twins.
Yep.
Maybe that's it. Maybe I should watch.
I feel like in the end, this series of podcasts is just going to turn into like kind of a therapy session where we uncover the root of your issue with the Harris twins, and we're going to end up finding out that they like stiffed your grandmother on some gear or something, and you'd forgotten about it until Richard reminds you, but you had told him not to say nothing, so he actually managed to keep the secret this time. And finally, he's like, "All right, I got to tell you something, man. This is why you hate the Bruise Brothers."
Took her 4 months to sew that fur on them boots like that.
All right, so the other end of the spectrum, what was your favorite part of this show?
I loved the commentary by the tag teams sitting at the desk while the match was going on. It added something to me, to the match, and to me it was like I said, my favorite part was just the line from Mike Samples about Barney Rubble. I mean, honestly, it was the highest point of the show for me from a comedy standpoint. But off of that, though, Honky Tonk Man showing up, I was a huge mark for early WWF when I was a kid. So that was really cool. The tag team tournament, I was big on until, everybody just we started seeing people drop out of it. But yeah, all of that would have been the high point. It wasn't just one, it was just a bunch of high parts.
Josh.
So with me, I really, really liked the last match, man. The Brian Christopher and Mike Miller versus the Doug and Tony Denucci tandem, man. Like, from the word go, Brian licking that belt, I had to stop and laugh and everything. I had to pause it for an extended period of time. And just watching that match, I mean, it was a little stretched out, for my standards. I mean, it was almost 15 minutes, but it was a good match. And, regardless of how questionable the story being laid out was being told, it was still telling a story of, you know, Doug getting pissed off and dragging him a couple of times, being like, just tag me, motherfucker. What's the problem? He's like, I'm getting beat to fucking powder and I can't do it. But either way, they kept cutting him off. It was a good back and forth. Finally, just snaps. I liked all of that. And then you've got the Hangman's leg drop off the top, or maybe the middle rope, off the ropes, either way. That is the coolest finisher that we have seen on TV thus far, at least in my opinion, reviewing so far. And just stuff like that, man, that really stands out to me, because a lot of times, man, it didn't seem like guys were going full throttle for Memphis TV. And then you see Brian doing a move like that, or Mr. Uncle Danny Sir doing 2 high cross bodies in one day. It was high flying action, man.
That's true. And so, you know, I guess this is a good example of like what the context of a match can mean for somebody, because if you take a look at this, Josh's least favorite part of the show involved Tony Denucci, and his favorite part of the show involved Tony Denucci. So a serious question posed to both of you guys. If Tony Denucci hadn't had a chance to come back out and be in the last match, and your only impression of him was that first match, do you put much of the first match on him, or is it more the Harris twins? Is it more Campione, or just the circumstance of how the Harris twins work a match?
Well,
and did the way he performed in the last match redeem him any, or do you think it really doesn't matter? It wasn't really involving him.
Well, I mean, you know, Tony Denucci, like whenever you had a commercial going and he was a part of one of the B-rolls, like I just looked over at Rich. I said, man, he looks good. He's built. The only, like he pointed out, the only thing that he had going against him was those short boots. Like if you got short boots, you're instant heel with me. But he's still, man, he had good calves, so he can do that. He's probably proud of his calves. So like Denucci has the look, but like, in all honesty, I'm just not the biggest fan of the Harris brothers. So it really takes it out of me when they're doing a match. But yeah, I mean, like it wasn't necessarily anything with Denucci, but you know, he was getting beat to powder and he didn't really have too much more going for him, but he got more out of the last match than he did the first, for sure.
I'll say this though. He couldn't pick a partner for shit, could he?
No, that's for sure.
0-2 on this week.
That's Eddie Marlin, the Star, picking his partners, though.
The Star. You know, I think it's ironic. You know, I thought that. I mean, obviously he's green. You know, in this time frame, Denucci is, but you know, I thought he came off well in the single match with Brian Christopher a couple of weeks ago, and then there, you know, he doesn't come off well in that tag match with the Harris brothers, but. Like, you know, you think, well, Harris brothers just eat everybody up. Who has looked good in a match with the Harris brothers in Memphis? But then you put him back in the ring with Brian Christopher, even in a tag match scenario, and he comes out looking better again. So to me, that says a lot for Brian and says a lot about the Harris brothers, you know. I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. It just clicked in my head like, well, wait a minute. The one, like, common denominator of his least favorite, most favorite, they both involve Tony Denucci. That's fun. Okay, so that being said, if we were actually in 1993, seeing the first round of the tournament and knowing it's going to play out, we're going to have champions crowned Monday night, would you feel compelled to go buy a ticket to Monday night's card?
Oh, absolutely. This is one of the first ones where I would have been like, yeah, first time in 2 weeks. We're going to see a title change. I'm going to see the Honky Tonk Man, possibly. I mean, he might be there. He's on Memphis Saturday morning, so yeah, let's do that. There's more people involved. I will say the only thing that hurts is they don't have enough baby faces. It seems like they have 3, and they just kind of rotate them in and out. But you know, this would have been the first week in a while that I would have wanted to go.
Yeah, I've got to echo it, man. Absolutely. That's just because. You know, just because I don't honestly remember what the outcome is, and just watching it, I want to say just from watching it, like, man, Lawler and Jarrett will probably win, but I don't know, because the way the Harris brothers have been eating everybody alive, you kind of want to believe that they're not going to lose, in the tournament. So, and Uncle Danny and Moondog Spot might have a chance too. So, I mean, like, it's literally a toss up of who it could be. And I genuinely don't know. So, yeah, I would definitely buy a ticket.
All right. So we've piqued you guys' interest. Hopefully the listeners and the viewers, we've piqued their interest. So what else is left to do? Let's head down to the Mid-South Coliseum, January 25th, 1993. We don't know what the crowd attendance was that night, although I will say next week we do have an attendance. So I'm excited about that. Opening match saw the Master of Terror #1 defeat Tony Denucci. In the second match, Jeff Gaylord defeated Scott Campione. In the third match, Miss Texas and Miss Sapphire defeated Burt Prentice and Leslie Bellinger in a tag team match. In the fourth match, the Bruise Brothers, Ron and Don Harris, defeated Moondog Spot and Nightmare Danny Davis to continue on in the tournament. In the next match, the King, Jerry Lawler, and Jeff Jarrett defeated Brian Christopher and Mean Mike Miller via disqualification to proceed to the finals for the championship. And in the finals, color me surprised, the Bruise Brothers, Ron and Don Harris, defeated Jerry Lawler and Jeff Jarrett to win the vacant USWA Tag Team titles when Jerry Lawler was pinned in the finish. So there we have it, new Tag Team Champions. They beat Jerry Lawler, who is also the Unified World Champion. So, does the Harris brother who gets the pin, does that make him #1 contender? We don't know. We'll have to stick around and find out. But how upset would you guys have been leaving the Coliseum that night that you did buy a ticket, you did come down there, and Josh's least favorite tag team on the planet walk out with the belts?
I would have felt a little bummed because Honky Tonk Man wasn't there. The first two matches seemed like matches. And then, as a kid, I would have been really bummed to see Lawler lose. He was like our Hogan, he was our Ultimate Warrior. He was our guy. So it would have been terrible. I would have went home sad as a kid.
Oh, yeah. It'd have been an hour car ride of me just fucking, I can't believe them long-haired fuckers won.
I ain't never going back down there again. Screw them. Well, I will say this for them. They did deliver every match they advertised this week. There wasn't any no-shows. And to be fair, Honky Tonk was not advertised on the card. Now, it would be implied, you think, well, he's in the studio. He's talking to Eddie Marler, as Miss Sapphire calls it. I don't think I missed that.
No.
But no, he's not on the Memphis. As I say, I don't know if or when he shows up on any of these cards at the Mid-South Coliseum. But anyway, we've got new tag team champs, so no more vacancy. So at least we got that going for us. We can only hope that Eddie Gilbert finds his way to Memphis, and his brother Doug was kind of hard on him in that promo today. So I don't know. Are we going to see some friction with the Gilberts when he makes it to town? I don't know. That could be fun for sure. And rumor has it that coming in pretty soon, after they tied up a little bit in the 1993 Royal Rumble out in California, we may just see Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig coming to town pretty soon to challenge the King for that unified title. And of course, we all know that Kurt Hennig is the one that Jerry Lawler defeated for the AWA title all the way back in 1988. So a big rematch coming up. So that should be fun. I think things are heading in a good direction. Overall, you guys give today's show a thumbs up. And we talked about it before we went on the air, and you guys were pretty happy with today's show. And based on the way you answered those questions and the fact you were ready to head to the Coliseum, I'd say that how much of an improvement was today's show over the last episode that we covered?
Oh God, at least 100%. It was a hard watch last week, man. I mean, and I love Memphis wrestling more probably looking back than any other promotion, but it just felt like there was only 5 people in the studio last week, and they were just really, really trying to spread it around.
This week we had a destination. We were getting in our cars and we were traveling to a destination. Last week, it felt like we were on a ship in the middle of the ocean, just cruising along with whatever wave it took us, because it didn't seem like it had any meaning last week. This week felt like there was a meaning. There's a tournament. We're going to crown a champion. We got a Honky Tonk Man coming in for no reason. Doug's missing. Doug's missing Eddie. Mr. Hughes is missing. There's things going on. It doesn't seem like we're just parading out the same 5 people.
Last week we just had time to fill, and we had a Monday night that had to have a card. And so we threw together some matches. Anytime we have these random 8-man tags like that, it's tough. And you have those in Memphis every now and again. I'm sure we'll have another one happen, sooner or later. But yes, I was like you guys, I was very excited to start this episode. And then when they immediately said, hey, we're doing a tournament for the tag team titles today, I was like, all right, we're not just going to have a ton of random promos to try to convince us that we really need to go see this same bunch of dudes fight each other again this Monday night that have all been fighting each other for weeks and weeks and weeks for the most part. So yeah, today's show was fun, and I look forward to what they have for us next week. And speaking of fun, if you want to have some fun, go check out P3 Radio wherever you listen to podcasts. There you see it on the screen, the letter P, the number 3, the word radio. Just go search that wherever you get your podcast, and you can find P3 Radio with Josh and Richard. It's a lot of fun. It isn't all about wrestling, but they cover enough wrestling if you're a wrestling fan to scratch that itch. But they also talk about a lot of other great things, and it's a lot of humor, and I enjoy it. I think you will too. If you want to follow the show on Facebook, go to facebook.com/retro wrestling review. We put up a lot of good content over there, videos and pictures and all kinds of fun stuff, USWA related, over on the Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at USWA Podcast. And if you want to get some T-shirts, they got hats now. We got caps over there. They got posters and pins and stickers and you name it. You can get it over there at tinyurl.com/retro wrestling review. You can also do tinyurl.com/USWA podcast. That'll get you there as well. We got some fun designs. I meant to have some screenshots for you, but we got, of course, stuff with the show logo on it. We got a Moondogs t-shirt. We got a Mike Miller shirt that everybody needs. I promise you need a Mike Miller shirt. We've even got one that's added. I don't even think the boys have seen over there that involves our announcer friend that we've been talking about, even though he doesn't really do it a lot in this era, but he was really especially known in the era of Corey having his own show, where it's like every time somebody do something he didn't know, he'd just go, big move. Well, we have that represented on a shirt or whatever you want to put it on. It could be a shirt. It can be a hat. It can be a cover for your cell phone if you want, friends. It's whatever you want over there at tinyurl.com/retro wrestling review. And of course, we want to remind everybody, check out WrestleCopia.com. That's where you can find this podcast and a ton of other great podcasts and wrestling content. You can go to the Patreon, the WrestleCopia Patreon, and for just $5 a month, there's all kinds of amazing content there that Ray Russell puts out. So make sure you go check that out. And make sure you join us back here next week. I know you guys are going to be on a little bit of a hiatus, got some other things going on. And so we're going to be having some special surprise guest co-hosts dropping in for the next 2 or 3 weeks. So just know that you guys will be missed, and I hope you still follow along and watch what's going on with USWA in the meantime, and we look forward to your return.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of sad we have to miss out, but we're going to be out for a couple weeks. But in the meantime, here's an earworm thing that you can look for the next couple of weeks. When you see the cards get ran down at the end, they always put the first name in lowercase and the last name in uppercase. So anytime you see it now, just think of like a Ric Flair promo where it's like Jerry Lawler, Moondog Spot, Danny Davis. I don't know why that is, but it's something that really just I've noticed the past couple of weeks.
Yes.
But
and speaking of flair and capitalization, if you ever see a tweet from that man, he capitalizes every letter of every single word, even if it's is, to, any word in the entire tweet. Every single first letter of every single word is capitalized. It drives me up the freaking wall.
A pizza manager at a place, and he's really angry.
Yeah, you gotta let them pizza managers know and keep them in their place.
Keep them humble.
Let them know that you're a legend. You're not going to be pushed around. Damn it! And one more thing before we go, if you get the opportunity to check out the Legends of Memphis Wrestling Fan Fest on Saturday, June the 29th in Jonesboro, Arkansas, at the Earl Bell Community Center. There is going to be a retro wrestling review podcast table there, a big booth. I will be there. You never know. These guys may show up. You never know. But I will be there. We'll have some merch from the show. We'll have some fun wrestling stuff. And we'd love for you to stop by, say hello, tell us what you think about the podcast, if you've been enjoying it, if you got any ideas or advice or anything you'd like to share. Please feel free to stop by and say hello. I'd love to see you there. And I'm also looking forward to mingling with some of the old USWA stars that we've been seeing on the show there at the convention. Hopefully I get a chance to say hello and see if some of these guys have watched some of these shows and what they think. I don't know. I may get an earful from some of these folks. I don't know. But looking forward to checking that out. And like I say, you guys have fun on your hiatus. You will be missed because you guys add a lot to the show and you definitely make the show fun. But hey, sometimes you got to do real life stuff and it can't all just be wrestling podcasts. So I definitely get that. So until next time, I'm Gene Jackson for Josh Briley and Richard Mullican of P3 Radio. We will see you next time here on the Retro Wrestling Review.